So I just downloaded Black Ops on this laptop here, and I wanted to benchmark it, and maybe some of you guys have similar specifications and are wondering how their game will perform on your computer. So to start off this here, I'm just trying in multiplayer, and here I'm actually using the NVIDIA optimized settings for this PC, and then I'm averaging around 102 FPS while I'm recording. If I turn off the recording, around like 109 FPS, and this is in resolution 2560 times 1440p and with NVIDIA DLSS I think, and other kind of settings. So this was more to like test to see how the game performs in multiplayer compared to the built-in benchmarking software. And so we are running at around 109 FPS while I'm not recording, and then around 119 or so FPS in the benchmarking. So they are fairly similar, and I then use the benchmarking software to test a lot more settings and resolutions to more get precise benchmarking, and I will show you the graphs. So here I'm using the same NVIDIA optimized settings for my PC. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this benchmarking tool. I think this is a very good thing now. You can really see what is limiting your PC, if it's the GPU, it's the bottleneck, or if it's the CPU, and kind of you can also fiddle around with a lot of settings, and it will give you some hints and such on what is actually impacting most on your FPS and limiting you. And here I'm averaging around 112 FPS with my optimized settings from NVIDIA, and if I turn off the recording I get around 119 FPS. So that tells us that the NVIDIA built-in recording in the GeForce software limits the performance a little bit. Yeah, this benchmark run here doesn't take too long time, and it's almost the same kind of FPS that I get in-game, so I think this is a good tool. You get the results here, and then you can somewhat transfer them directly on how your PC will perform actually in the real multiplayer. And here we see the menu, we see some averages, the lows, how the CPU is performing, and the GPU, and the specifications, and some of the settings you used. So here you see how it performs in 1080p from extreme to the low settings, no DLSS or kind of image scaling, just using the built-in presets, and then 1080p. And we can see that in extreme, even this 3070 somewhat is struggling at around the average of 74 FPS. If you go down to ultra settings, still fairly low, I think 78, balanced 104 FPS, and then all the way to low, then we get up to 111 FPS in 1080p on this gaming laptop. So if we use the same kind of settings but increasing the resolution to 1440p, which means we need to render around 2 times the amount of pixels, we see just a drop of 25%, at least in the extreme. And then you also see here fairly small differences between extreme and ultra, and then a little bit of an increased average going up to balanced and low at around stable, around 80 to 90 FPS. Then I also wanted to test the performance of DLSS, and then I used the balanced settings in the DLSS. And first I'm starting at 1080p, then going to 1440p, and then 4K, And then I also just tried switching 4K off, or I mean in 4K, and then switching off DLSS, but then of course the game crashed, so then 0 FPS I guess. So DLSS imbalanced in 1080p, 92 average, 4040p 69 average, and 41 average in 4K. But keep in mind here all of the settings are in extreme, so not like really optimized, but it gives a little bit of an indication here on how it performs. So yeah, maybe look more into the graphs and maybe you understand a little bit better how this game performs on this PC with this kind of hardware.